What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Here we are in the tournament to find out who is going to be playing at Scratch and Claw 2 coming up. We know who will be moving in the next round from the previous match. That was Tarrin. Our newcomer had taken out Papa West in the upset. Tonight we have Nicky the Arsenal Sullivan taking on JD West. No relation to Papa West, I hope. But of course, I'm not the only one here tonight. Yes, I'm the host with the most, Matty G, or your GameZone commissioner, however you choose to call me. I guess right now we'll jump over to the other judge that's here right now. That would be the Dr. Spaceman himself, Mr. Alan Shepard. Alan. I don't have How are you doing this early morning for you, bud?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to hear a couple of debates about some games right before lunchtime. So this will be fun for me. So make it good, boys.
Well, Medium might have been having a little trouble right now. He'll jump back in before we can get started. I guess we'll go down to our players. JD, you played in this league before, I believe. How you feeling this evening?
Yeah, afternoon for me, but I played once against Grant Gregory, the comic book lad, and I lost, but I did get a couple points, so it's not like I got wiped out or anything. So given the right categories, I think I could do good.
Right on. Well, you got to choose two of your categories, so let's see if the questions fall on your side. Your combatant making his debut in the game zone is Nicky the Arsenal Sullivan. This is the way, senor.
Where did I just put it? It was.
How are you not ready? How are you always every time?
This is the way. No, it was just blended in with the thing. Hey, everybody, how you doing?
That sounds like a load of crap to me, but that's okay. Okay. I will deal with that. That involves
the Mandalorian banner match with my helmet. That was intentional.
We love you, baby.
Nadeem, how you feeling this afternoon, evening, wherever the hell you are in the world?
I'm not even sure what day it is, so who knows what time it is either. I'm feeling good. It's so much fun having 6 people in the house, all watching Netflix on the same router, making my internet calls out. Shit. But other than that, I'm doing all right. I'm excited to be a part of this sports trivia. Nope. Game fight.
Game.
I know which one it is.
Video game.
I didn't sign in the last couple hours. I'm good. I know where I am.
Match. Whatever.
At least you're more prepared than me.
All right. Right. All right, guys. Quick rundown of the rules. They will have a 90-second opening, a 5-minute freeform debate, and a 60-second closing. If they so choose, they have the option of adding a minute to their opening, which I've never seen before, but you never know, or their closing, which we call here in the game zone the extra life. If during the 5-minute debate they start talking over the top of each other, I will hit the pause button and we'll have them until everybody stops talking, and then I will run 10 seconds off the clock. I don't care if it runs us out to the end. Gentlemen, do we all understand how this works?
Yes. Where am I going to get a haircut? Like, that's what I don't understand.
Haircuts, I think people are doing over YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
Wear your Mandalorian helmet and you'll be good. All right. So, question number 1 was JD's strength. Exactly. It was the way. So, he will go ahead and open this up for us. And it comes in the realm of tabletop games. Guys, what tabletop game is the worst to play on family game night? JD, you got 90 seconds when you start talking.
Well, I really had to think about this for a little bit because tabletop could be a multitude things. But I decided on Trivial Pursuit because in Trivial Pursuit, you have to roll the dice that or one die is specifically to move around the game board, and especially with newly made Trivial Pursuit, that could take hours because you have that one person playing that just like, oh, let me go to roll again, let me roll again, let me roll again, let me roll again for 5 freaking hours. That's all I'm going to say for my
Okay, so he's going to concede the rest of his time. All right, so we got Trivial Pursuit, The Arsenal. 90 seconds when you start talking.
All right, so I put an emphasis on family when it came to family game night, the worst game to play on family game night. I thought of my own family. I thought of when I was a kid. I thought of my sister and that how we still can't talk civilly to each other because of this game. That game is Monopoly. Monopoly is a great game when you're playing it with the right people, but when you are playing it with the wrong people, that is slow torture, my friends. That thing is ridiculous. You'll be playing that thing for hours. We even did this thing where we made up our own rule where we like shuffle up the properties, pass them out. It would still last for hours. You know why? Because my family won't budge. My family does not quit. They won't trade. If they have all the railroads, or if they have 2 railroads and then everybody else only has one of a different thing, they will ride that out for as long as they can. Let me ask you a rhetorical question. Do you want to spend 48 hours with your family? Because that's what could be happening if you're playing Monopoly. Monopoly could end at any given time. There are families out there right now that started a game of Monopoly when this whole entire pandemic thing started, and they're still playing right now. These people don't want to play this game. They don't want to be with their families anymore. Family game night is supposed to be a couple of hours of fun where you can spend with your family. It's not meant to be days upon days upon days and a lifetime of resenting one another. That's what Monopoly will give you, and I don't think you should play Monopoly on family game night if you have a hard time dealing with your family.
Time. Well, all right. So we got Trivial Pursuit versus Monopoly. All right. Let me find that clock. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking. Guys, let's remember and be civil.
So Trivial Pursuit is one of those games that I could understand would be difficult if you're not with the right crowd. Here, we all play trivia, so I think Trivial Pursuit for us is kind of a fun game. I don't know about your family, but with the wrong family, I could see how that would be a bad game. But with Monopoly, I mean, Trivial Pursuit, at least you can like unplug. A lot of those comes with like a DVD. You can at least just unplug the DVD player and that game will be over. Monopoly, you're playing that game until somebody either gives up or runs out of money. And it is impossible to run out of money on this game.
Oh, okay. So you basically compared Trivial Pursuit to Seen It. Got it. So because the Trivial Pursuit board game is horrendous.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
horrendous
I
because
can imagine.
not just the fact that you have to land on only a certain amount of spots to get the pieces, which is not bad in hindsight, but when you get all the pieces, you have to roll the exact number in order to win, which could take hours depending on your luck and not
See, I'm like 10 years old, so I was playing the updated version of Trivial Pursuit that comes with the DVDs.
Hours.
But now that I think of it, back when I was very, very small, smaller than I am even now, the Trivial Pursuit, the Disney Trivial Pursuit, that that was a fun game to play with me and my sister because it was Disney Trivial Pursuit. We knew all the answer. Then about Trivial Pursuit, you have all these different themes. The themes change how the game is played depending on what theme of Trivial Pursuit that you're playing. Monopoly, it doesn't matter what theme you're playing with Monopoly. The rules are still basically the same. You are not going to be able to get your family to trade you the Millennium Falcon if you're playing Star Wars Monopoly, or Boardwalk if you're playing regular Monopoly. It doesn't matter what version of Monopoly you're playing. Electronic Monopoly, Billionaire Monopoly, Modern Day Monopoly, Disney Monopoly. It's a nightmare. I have a friend of mine that collects Monopoly games. You know where I don't go to family game night? That house. I'm not going to play Monopoly on family game night because I have a bad back and I cannot sit there for 24 hours while you play Monopoly on your family game night.
Oh, so we're going to pause for
I like though. Trivial Pursuit is fun. I enjoy a good game of Trivial Pursuit. Trivial Pursuit could take like an hour. It could take 30 minutes depending on how you are.
Time.
You put a pause on the timer? Yeah.
Yeah, I paused the timer when he jumped.
Pause it.
I just wanted to fill the dead air.
Nice.
Subrath can fix that.
The thing that cracks me up is both of these games we played yesterday in my house.
Oh, and you finished? How did you finish?
Yeah,
I can't stand my family for more than 5 minutes at this point. I don't know how you're handling this.
I handle it by living in a different house.
I go upstairs and they're like, "So when are you getting kids?" And I'm like,
Sorry, something I cut out.
You're fine. I paused it
No
when
worries.
you jumped
I
out.
cut
so
out there.
It's all
You're
right.
fine. I paused the timer when you jumped out, so we're good. So all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Somebody start talking. 2 minutes.
Trivial Pursuit is a great game. I don't know what your problem is with it. I love playing Trivial Pursuit. I wish I could find the Trivial Pursuit boxes that I had. I think they're at my mom's house. I don't have to see my family to play Trivial Pursuit. So that's probably the biggest
Pursuit
problem.
doesn't have as many themes as you're talking about. You might be talking about seeing it where it comes with a DVD and you're reliant on the DVD to play.
The DVD versions do help with pacing. I will say that. Those games that I could play for 45 minutes with my family. I could have my sister play that game with her and her husband. That game will be over in a quick 40 minutes. Monopoly is going to take hours to play. I don't know the last time any of you played Monopoly, but I have never played a game of Monopoly that lasted shorter than 4 hours.
Okay, well, depending on who you play with, either of these games could be really good or really terrible. Now, it comes basically down to design at this point because Monopoly, all you basically do is just roll dice,
Monopoly is designed to make you
go,
family.
collect properties. That's it.
All right. So, all right. JD went first. So, Nikki, you're going to close first. You got 60 seconds to wrap this up when you start talking.
All right, so Monopoly is designed to make you hate your family. No man was meant to spend that much time with his family. I mean, if they're your own kids, that's one thing. Alan is good. He has kids, people that he play with and actually have fun with. My family, when I think of it, I am a soul man in his whatever age I am, and my family is not people that you want to spend a lot of time with. Trivial Pursuit could be fun in many different types of scenarios with many different groups of people, your family included. Trivial Pursuit would be a fun game to play with my mom, my dad, my sister, my stepdad. That would be a fun game to play with them. Monopoly would take too long. Monopoly is made to tear families apart. My mom works at a place where the makers of Monopoly, the people who are the heirs to Monopoly, actually stay. I bet those people don't even want to play Monopoly with their families. It's one of those things. Don't play Monopoly with family, tear it apart, lead divorce.
Time. So Monopoly will lead into divorce, gentlemen. Sir Alan, you could later talk to us about that. JD, you started this round. Wrap it up with a nice little bow.
Yeah, well, depending on who you play with, either of these games could either be the best experience you've had or horrendous nightmare. It all comes down to design at this point. For Monopoly, all you do is just go around the board, pass go, collect money, collect properties. That's not that challenging. But Trivial Pursuit, hey, do you want to feel like you know nothing for like 5 hours straight? Play Trivial Pursuit. And the luck of the die is so much more against your favor because after you collect the 6 pieces, you have to roll the exact number in order to win. If you're one space from winning, you have to roll a 1, and that's horrendous.
All right, so we have Trivial Pursuit and we have Monopoly, the family destroyer, as they put it. Having ultimate power. I'm not going first. I'm going to talk to the guy who played this first yesterday. Alan, make some sense of this. What do you think and why?
Yes, I played both of these games yesterday. In my house, it's just me, my wife, my 2 kids, and our crazy dog who thinks he can play the game too. But he just chews up the pieces and knocks everything over. But that's kind of what you want to happen after a while. Both arguments, you both put very good personal spins on it that ring true for everyone. The hours it takes to play each one of these games, the way that you got somebody in your family who will not sell one of the properties or trade any of the properties, my wife. And then with Trivial Pursuit, you've got, if you don't roll the exact space to get to that middle space so you can answer the question and finally win, I understand that. I feel that pain. But I think both of you did well with these arguments. But I think Nicky just pushed slightly over the edge with enough facts, enough personal points of view on it, and enough personal feelings about it, and what it can do to relationships rang a little more true. So I'm gonna give it to Nicky.
All right, 1-0 Nicky. Madeem, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Nicky as well by the slightest of margins. Both of you guys did a really great job of why I don't play games with my family no more. I can't deal with that. That's a wrath that I don't wish to incur. But it's Trivial Pursuit is a hell of a game, especially if you're not too smart like my parents believe that me and the rest of my siblings are. And Monopoly, it's hard because then my dad starts saying, "Nah, this is my money in real life. I'm paying your rent. Don't worry about that. I've taken care of this." I feel like I need to sit on a couch for a while and just talk about my feelings for the next hour after this. But
me and Alan have a show planned for that.
It is bringing up some bad memories for me. But I think I'm going to get back to the point. Nicky, you brought in a little bit more. JD, I didn't really hear as much saying why Monopoly was not a good choice from you. Whereas from Nicky, I heard a little bit more about why Trivial Pursuit is not as good of a choice for this particular question as Monopoly was. So if there was a little bit more of like a back and forth on that, I probably would have changed my vote. But for now, Nicky, you got my vote.
All right, so that is a clean sweep for Nicky. I too would have given my point to Nicky by the narrowest margins, just because he kind of emphasized on why his was bad and gave us reasons why JD's wasn't quite as bad. But that's okay, JD. We got another question, so let's keep this fight going, shall we? Round 2 comes in the world of RPG.
Yeah. Honestly, when we were picking our answers, I was going to pick Monopoly, and when you picked it, I was like,
Yeah, because I have personally knocked over a board or two just to get the game over myself. That's okay though. We're gonna move
Done that
into
with chess.
I have too with my quote unquote older brother.
Don't
But
play
that's
chess with Devin. That's my advice.
okay. So round two comes to the category of RPGs, and this is Nicky's strength, so he'll go first. Guys, tell me, what is the most influential 90s RPG? Like I said, Nicky, this is your strength, so you're going to open. Let me get the clock ready. 90 seconds.
It never happened before. I'm going to take my extra minute now.
You're going to take it now? Okay, so.
It's the first time for everything, even if I'm involved.
Apparently, you've got 2.5 minutes to start talking.
Good. I need it. I really do. So,
get it.
Zelda Ocarina of Time is the game that I chose. And a lot of people, a lot of hardcore gamers may raise their hands up and say, that's not a true RPG game. That's not a true RPG game. But the way that I categorize, I viewed it not what the best game is that defines RPG game. The question was, what's the best RPG game that was most influential? And I typed in RPG games on Google. I found Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time. That was under there. And I would argue that there aren't many other games in the world that are more influential than that game. Now, I was thinking about this question after I came up with that answer, and I realized that The Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time is essentially an Arkham game with Zelda. So everything like that, the Arkham games that have everything that most open world gameplay has today started with The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. You get your custom weapons. You get to choose what loadouts your weapons have. You get to choose the things where you go. There's side missions. There's side quests. There's the main quest. You can ride a horse. You can play the flute. You can basically choose what you're doing with this game. And there's a lot of different things that you can do in between the beginning of the game and the end of the game. And most influential RPG game in the 90s. 90s, again, that was a big deciding factor in what I chose, because Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, it's a game from the Nintendo 64, originally released, later released on the GameCube with an updated Master Quest to it, which, again, that's a great game as well. But we're talking about the 90s version that came out in the 90s. I think this is absolutely the most influential game, because this game has, like I said, all the custom weapon maps. You have these different abilities that you can use. You can play this game a different way every time if you want to. And you are playing a role. You are Link. This is the kid that you are. You start this game as the kid. You go through it. You lift up the sword, and then you become a man. It's a great storyline, and then you have to put the sword back in and become a little kid again. You get to ride a horse. You get to play the flute. I know I already said that, but it's one of those games that I think is timeless. You can still play that game today. And another thing that's impressive about this game is how influential it was. It didn't even have a voiceover track. This game had no video game voices in it. It is still one of the greatest games of all time.
Woo! All righty. That was an influential 2.5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a first to hear, at least since I took over the Game Zone. JD, again, you've got your extra life if you choose to use it. If not, minute and a half when you start talking.
I realized that Nicky Sullivan is probably going to win fanboy points because he picked the most popular choice. So I decided to go a different route and basically talk about an underrated game that most people don't know about, but it was very influential. I picked the tabletop role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade. Now, the reason I picked this game is because when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons is probably the most popular one aside from Warhammer. And if you created a tabletop role-playing game that even made you not think about Dungeons and Dragons for a little bit, it was very influential, and that's what Vampire the Masquerade did in the 90s.
All right, and I'm taking with the silence. He has conceded the last 10 seconds. Gentlemen, when I find that 5-minute clock, oh, there it is. And I lost it again because I'm an idiot. All right, gentlemen, 5 minutes when you start talking. Again, let's keep it civil. Somebody start talking.
So this is one of those things where, again, we all are different people, and I like to embrace the differences that each individual has. Just answering this question, my mind went to video games, your mind went to tabletop games, and I think that's something that should be noted, that everybody's different, and everybody has a different perception of what role-playing game means. I hear role-playing game, and I think, am I playing a role? Am I a character in that game that I follow along? You heard role-playing game, and you immediately thought tabletop role-playing game. Now, what I will say about my game is that my game you can play if you don't have any friends or family around and you don't need to actually interact with other people. I've been social distancing for 12 years, so naturally my selection was to a game that I played with myself. You probably have a lot more friends and family than me, so naturally your selection was going to a game that you could play with other people. My experience with tabletop role-playing games is that there's always somebody that doesn't know how to play, and I'm usually that person. Okay, what do I do now? And then I get excluded from the rest of the game. The problem with that game is there's a chance of exclusion. My game, there's no chance of exclusion. You could play that game by yourself. I played that game when I was stuck at home in the hospital. I played that game when I was stuck at home sick at school. I played that game when I'm stuck at home now. You can do whatever you want with that game.
So basically, the reason you don't play tabletop role-playing games is you haven't found the right group, which, if you don't feel included, you can always let the game master know, and if they respect you enough, they'll or even acknowledge you're there, they'll rope you in along the way. With role-playing games, usually it's the character that levels up and not the specific world around them leveling up. With Vampire the Masquerade, it was one of the only RPGs that existed outside of Dungeons and Dragons, which was influential in its own right. But their RPGs specifically are about storytelling, and yes, Zelda Ocarina of Time has a great story, doot, magic flute and all that. Mm-hmm. Now with Vampire the Masquerade, it was a relief because it's a game that the game designers told us what RPGs were meant to be, and I'm surprised they allowed Zelda Ocarina of Time to be an answer.
Well, they did accept the answer.
Does it.
That's why it's kind of hard to argue against yours, because yours is a different type of RPG.
Time. I'm calling time.
Sorry, man.
I'm calling.
I didn't mean
no,
it.
no, no,
I thought
no.
he was done.
No. I'm calling time out on this because I did accept the answer, and I had 2 other people accept the answer. So let's drop that right now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went through, and I personally went through and studied both answers, and I found them both acceptable. So let's just drop that right now. Okay. All right. Okay. Minute 42. Let's keep going.
So, like I said, it's a difference between what the definition of RPG game is. It's one of those things where I can't really relate to your game. But my game, you did mention, my game has an excellent story, and that story is excellent regardless of who plays the game. And that's one of the benefits that my game has, is that story is always going to be great no matter who plays it. That game's always going to be great no matter who plays it. If I ever have kids, I'm going to have them play that game before they ever touch any of the Arkham games. and it's about influential. I think that this game had more to do with video games moving forward, whereas your game, it sounds like it's run-in-the-mill tabletop RPG games, where every tabletop RPG game is roughly similar structure.
Yeah. Well, to be a role-playing game, you supersede the most popular game in your sub-genre. That takes a big feat. That would be basically, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's major because whenever you talk about role-playing games, the first one or one of the people go to is either in the MMORPG setting of World of Warcraft or in tabletop Dungeons and Dragons.
All right. So this is Nicky's strength. JD, you got 1 minute on the clock unless you'd like to use your extra life.
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, I've got 2 minutes pulled up on the clock when you start talking.
Okay, well, Vampire the Masquerade to Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like the younger brother finally being able to show up to the dinner table with the older brother has shoved them away constantly. It's one of those games where it's the story is outstanding, where you play as adventurers going through ancient Transylvanian times, where you level up as you go, which is what I think a role-playing game to be, not a game that Nintendo doesn't even consider a role-playing game, and the world levels up around you, not you yourself level up. And basically, Vampire Masquerade outshadowing Dungeons and Dragons, for another comparison, is kind of like Smite or Dota outshining League of Legends, World of Warcraft, and all these other great games that come in that sub genre of multimedia online role-playing game or tabletop role-playing game. And while both stories of Ocarina of Time and Vampire Masquerade are great, I feel like Vampire the Masquerade is more influential.
All right, Mr. Arsenal. You got 60 seconds on the clock. Wrap this round up with a nice, pretty bow. Nicky, you're muted.
Sorry, I didn't want to do that. So I embrace technicalities. I really embrace the terminology of the question. What was most influential? Now, you picked a tabletop role-playing game, and to like hardcore role-playing gamers, that may be better fit the terminology of role-playing games. RPG, that's something that I have to always ask. What's an RPG game? Like, what does RPG mean? And when like I actually researched it and saw what RPG games there were in the 90s, I wasn't looking at tabletop games. I was looking at video games, and I was taking personal experience heavily into account. Now, that being said, I played Legends of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. That influenced not only just all the Zelda games that come after that, it pretty much influenced all open world role-playing video games from that point out. The Batman Arkham series, you get to customize like what weapons you use. You get to choose what weapons you're using at that time. He has a grappling hook, for God's sake. Like that game, the story, the role-playing aspect of it, you get to customize your weapons. You get to choose how you play. I love it. It was a personal favorite.
Time. All righty. You know what? I'm gonna go first on this one. The question for the judges again is, what is the most influential 90s RPG game? And I took that as, what did it help in the long run? And to me, Nicky explained a little bit more on what it did in the future. That's how I interpreted the question, so my point's going to Nicky. Madeem, what about you, buddy?
This one, I was kind of, I'm really intrigued by the arguments that were brought up because both games are so really well done and have led to other things happening later on that I've really enjoyed. I mean, Nicky picking Ocarina of Time, and then JD picking like a more, I guess, traditional view of what an RPG game should be, and like leading to Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that. And sorry, I'm still trying to figure out who I'm voting for. But both had really solid arguments on their end about why their RPG led to other things. Nicky bringing up the Arkham games, and then JD bringing up Dungeons and Dragons being like a successor to your game.
Quick fact check.
I'm gonna go with. Sorry.
Quick fact check on yours. Dungeons and Dragons came out in the 80s. Just FYI.
Oh shit. I'm probably gonna go with Nicky now, just because it came afterwards. Even though the way you described it still is really crazy, and I kind of want to play the game now.
I know. JD, I have to give you credit though. That was a hell of an argument.
Yeah, like you brought a brilliant argument, and like, I mean, I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons yet either. Full disclosure, although the way this quarantine's going, I've officially texted my friend saying, "All right, add me in the group for the next couple of days."
Yeah. So with that point for Nicky, we are now 2-0. Dr. Spaceman, how would your point gone?
These were both good arguments and good choices, both of you. Well, like Madi said, it was very good that you got out of the box choices, both of you, because you're both wrong. The greatest influential RPG game of 1996 would have been Pokemon Blue. So that's just, I'm just going right. What's up? I like that you went tabletop, JD. I do, but the question was what was more influential, and Nicky with his closing solidified that. These are all the things his thinking out of the box choice. I can't think of a word right now. I should, but I'm hungry. Made, but he kind of gave you all the details of how that game influenced other games in the future. So I would have given Nicky my point, but just for his closing. But before that, JD had it.
Yeah. Again, JD, hell of a pull.
Oh yeah.
Keep throwing that out, stuff like that. I guarantee you will keep going in this. Either way, if you watched our last match, Tarrin pulled a rabbit out of his hat like that himself. But let's continue, shall we? All right. So
Real quick,
are going to round 3. That comes in the realm of fighters. This is JD's strength, so he will open and he will tell us what is the most underrated Street Fighter sequel. Since both extra lives have been used, we don't have to worry about that. Mr. JD, minute and a half when you start talking.
Okay, well, my choice is Street Fighter Alpha 3. Now, the reason I chose Street Fighter Alpha 3 is because the Alpha sub-series in general is highly overlooked in my opinion, and I wanted to bring more awareness to the Alpha series because it is such a good sub-series. And now the reason I chose number 3 specifically is because it's the final game in the Alpha series, which a lot of final games are either really good or really bad. In this case, really good, because it introduced different fighting styles that most people use nowadays in reference to in multiple ways. And that's all I'm going to say for my opener.
All right, with 4 seconds left on the clock, he is going with Street Fighter Alpha 3. I actually just picked up an emulator that had it on it myself. All right, Nikki. Same question, sir. What's the most underrated Street Fighter sequel?
So I went with the original Street Fighter 2, the original sequel. And the reason I went with that is because it's one of those things, again, from personal experience. I remember this pizza place that was up in northern New Hampshire where I went to vacation every year with my family. And like on the way home, it was like a 3-hour drive home. We stopped at this pizza place every year, and we stopped there. And Street Fighter 2 was one of like the arcade cabinets that I remember there. It took what was great about the original and it built upon it. Now, Street Fighter, it's one of those questions when you said Street Fighter, and it was hard for me to come up with an answer to that because the Street Fighter games, they're very similar as far as every single one of them goes. Controls, mechanics, platforms. Even if you want to do a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie and just push play on that, I guess you could play that. But Street Fighter is one of those games where it's best when it's at its like classic form. So that's when why I went with Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 is just one of those games where it's a retro game. It's still like put your quarter in, play the game, put 2 quarters in, play with a friend, eat your pizza, and then sleep on the way home back to hometown, wherever you're going after you're on vacation. So that's why I picked Street Fighter 2. It was one that I remembered playing as a kid at pizza places, and it's probably still there at many pizza places today. And
All righty. So we have Street Fighter 3 Alpha and the pizza place Street Fighter 2. Gentlemen, 5 minutes. Fight it out.
The fighting styles I was referencing in my opener are Aism, Zism, and Xism, which it's based on different Street Fighter game, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but it works really well in this game because these fighting styles allow you to access your super combo in a brand new way where you have it's not just one big move. It could be several combos to hop away from Street Fighter a little bit. That's what Mortal Kombat does really well, and it shows a lot in Street Fighter Alpha 3, and that's why I love it so much.
So again, this is a personal preference thing. You seem to pick a game that had a lot more upgrades. They had a lot more like to add to the sequel to the game than the original Street Fighter even was. With me, I like to keep it simple. As far as like fighting games go, the more you add to it, the worse I am at it. The good thing about Street Fighter 2 was basically the change was they added a 2 to it. It's Street Fighter and then 2. They added a couple more characters. They added a few more combos, but you're basically playing the same arcade cabinet setup that you did before. It's one of those games where it's simple. You can play it with your friends. You can play it with your mom. You can play it with your dad. You can play it with whoever you're eating pizza with. You put your quarters in, you play the game, you have a good time, you kill a little bit of time. It's the fighting games. Now, when it comes to like fighting games, if I'm like picking like themes, like if this wasn't a Street Fighter question, I'd be picking different themes, different skins. Because basically, most fighter games are the same. They're just reskinned. So Mortal Kombat and Injustice Gods Among Us, essentially the same game. They just reskinned it to be Injustice Gods Among Us. They reskinned it with a Justice League format. So if I'm going with your game would probably be better if it was reskinned into something I like. When it comes to Street Fighter games, I kept it simple. I went with Street Fighter 2. I kept it with a game that I could play with anybody who I wanted. I didn't have to explain it too much too.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, what you just described seems lazy. In my opinion, to I really like how it upgrades from the game before it, and Street Fighter to Street Fighter 2 is not the kind of upgrade that I would like, because we added Blanca to Street Fighter 2.
And that's exactly why I picked it. I picked it because it's not an upgrade.
Different.
I picked it because it's the same. I picked it because I liked Street Fighter. When I'm playing classic arcade games like that, I want to keep it as classic as possible. I want to keep it simple as possible. You got the 2 sticks, you got minimal buttons. That's what I like about it. That's the reason why I like Street Fighter 2. Again, your game probably better on like a console setting. If like it's the next sequel in a generation, like Mortal Kombat 10, Mortal Kombat 11, those games always add new features to the game. When it comes to Street Fighter versus like a Mortal Kombat or a different fighting game, I always looked at Street Fighter as classic arcade. And today in 2020, when I'm playing a classic arcade like Street Fighter 2 is closer to what I am looking for when I play that type of classic arcade fighting game. But that's just my personal sensibilities, and I'd like to hear more about yours.
Honestly, most of us button mash the game, so we don't notice the amazing upgrades that Street Fighter puts into their games. So it's basically talk about an icon versus an actually good game, in my opinion.
So, yeah, it's one of those things. Oh,
Time.
yeah.
All righty. So this was JD's strength. So we're going to have Nicky close first. Nicky, you got 1 minute, buddy. Wrap it up with a nice little bow.
You picked a Street Fighter game that is trying to improve upon the past. I picked a Street Fighter game that is taking what is good about the past and keeping it. The thing with fighting games is the more buttons you add to fighting games, the worse I am at it. So again, it's personal sensibilities. My personal sensibilities when it comes to fighting games is the less buttons you have, the less you have to do to create a combo. Street Fighter 2, as it improved upon the first game, it improved upon it in a minimal form. Now, for me, Street Fighter 2 is the better game because you stick with that classic arcade sensibilities. You're going into the classic arcade, you got the stick, you got 2 or 3 buttons, and that's how you go with it. They added more characters, but you're right. They didn't build upon the game too much, and that's because the game was already a really good arcade game that you could play with friends and family when you put the quarters in. This is a game that you can play with other people. It's better played with other people. Your game, all Street Fighter games are essentially the same, and with me, I like to keep it as simple as possible.
Time. All righty. Let me pull that clock back up. JD, wrap this round up, please. 1 minute when you start talking.
Yeah. Well, I knew I was going to be fighting the uphill fight with arguing against the iconic game like Street Fighter 2, and I didn't realize how much of an uphill fight it was. So let me tell you about Street Fighter Alpha 3 because it discards the manual and auto modes from previous alpha games, which a lot of people were complaining about. So it's finally good that the game designers upgraded that, and it has the same 18 characters from the second alpha game, but it includes some many fan favorites like E Honda, Blanca, Balrog, and Vega, where Street Fighter 2 to Street Fighter, I don't.
All righty, gentlemen. We're going to go to the man who hasn't gone first yet, Madeem. I don't know if you have pants on or not. Don't want to know, but I do want to know.
You want to know
out of this debate?
I'm gonna hide again, guys.
I don't have pants on, by the way, because why would I wear pants? So restricting, useless. I did put on a shirt for this though, so you guys are welcome.
Yeah, I
really appreciate that.
Even when I'm not wearing a shirt, though, I'm hairy enough that it looks like I'm wearing a sweater. So I could have gotten away with it. But, okay, so my reasoning on it. So the question was, which is the most underrated, correct?
Correct. Here, I'll read it again. What's the most underrated Street Fighter sequel?
All right. So for me, I'm going to go with JD, and I'll tell you why. Street Fighter 2 is a brilliant game, and Street Fighter Alpha 3 is also a really great game. The thing is, though, a lot more people remember Street Fighter 2, and not as many people even remember what the Alpha series was. Like, the Alpha series kind of ran before, like, as a prequel, I guess, to Street Fighter 2, if I remember right. But it was kind of, back in the day, you would just have to go to arcade and play Street Fighter, and you would play it on, like, the big arcade machines. And people loved Street Fighter 1. They really loved Street Fighter 2. And then the Alpha series kind of came out on PC, and I really loved Alpha 3 as well. So the way I see it, a lot more people remember Street Fighter 2, and it is still a great game. And JD, you brought that up. Nicky, your arguments were more on a personal level, I feel like, the way I understood them, where it was like, all right, I understood it like this, and a lot of games are just basically the same game over and over. All these games are going to be the same over and over. Like, Street Fighter has not brought anything new to the table, really, if we're being completely honest, in the last, like, 20 years. But they're the most underrated of them, based on the arguments, I would say is for sure JD's pick. And he's not even here anymore.
I know. On the table. Dr. Spaceman, how do you feel?
These were very good arguments. I mean, and it's hard to do good arguments on a game that really, doesn't change from sequel to sequel that much. But I think what Nicky hit a little bit stronger on was keeping what was good about it, and making it, whatever little additions you do make to it, keeping what is good about it, what people loved about it so much. Keep it simple, stupid, is what most campaign things go for. And the same with marketing for games, that if they have a formula that works, you stick with that formula, as long as it doesn't get stale and tired. And apparently it hasn't got stale and tired, because they're still putting out new sequels to Street Fighter after all this time. I'm not very good at either one of these games. I did like Alpha game, but I think I'm going to stick with Nicky on this one.
I just realized I spelled my name wrong, so I don't really care about that. But at least you spelled your name right, Alan.
Hey, spelling counts.
It's hard to do.
All right. Well, both of y'all suck majorly, because that means it has to go to me. I'm sitting with the same spot as Madeem. Basically, the way that it fell to me is, the question is underrated, and Street Fighter 2 is probably seen as one of the greatest sequels of all time. Mm-hmm. So, and JD hit that once, and Nicky didn't hit it back. So that was kind of the tip of the ball that got it going. So we are at 2-1, gentlemen. So there is no knockout. Nicky, you're gonna move on in the tournament.
Yeah.
Shit. All right.
So since we didn't get to the question, I will say that I was expecting them to argue JD to argue that San Andreas was a better game. And I was going to say that the difference between San Andreas and Vice City is essentially in San Andreas, you get to have sex in a car. And that is not the way that the first time anybody should have sex is on a car on a video game. So that's why I would have picked Vice City. It's essentially Miami Vice, Bad Boys 3. If you're the bad guy in a Grand Theft Auto game, come to the city where the heat is on all night on the beach till the break of dawn. I'm going to Miami. Welcome to Miami. So
First of all, I applaud the Will Smith reference. Second of all,
by knockout.
I want
the
to
only
say,
time I ever prepared for anything was that question.
I feel like having sex in a car is not the worst way to have your first time, but all right.
Sex in a car on a video game. That shouldn't be a way that
in a video game. All right,
I just want to point out that in Vice City you can pick up hookers.
You can go to a strip club. And you can
No.
pick up hookers, but the car doesn't
Gentlemen.
like it does.
The car
Kids are in the other room.
That is not something I want to see in a video game.
The
Hang
car
on. No,
does
in Vice City, I'm pretty sure you can get hookers as well.
you
It's
can,
not
and it brings.
I don't want to search it up because my internet history is already messed up. But
I don't
like,
talk about this anymore.
All right, guys. So I guess we'll close it out, and I'll let that go on. So JD's going to drop down and play Jacob in the losers round. There you go, Mr. Allen. You saw that. He played for the title last time. Now he's playing in the losers bracket. That would be Jacob Papa West. He's going to be taking on JD Sullivan, and Nicky the Arsenal Sullivan is going to be taking on our newcomer Tarrin Neel.
Or Sullivan.
Tarrin.
Spelled here.
So
Or Sullivan.
Sullivan, whatever. You know what? That's okay. Sometimes spelling doesn't count.
The Irish suck. I'm Italian now.
You
It's
can
not going to sully your win.
this is how I know you're a dad.
Yep.
If spelling was an issue, you could talk to JTE about that. So for the Game Zone, I am Matty G. That is Dr. Spaceman. That was Mahid. That is the Arsenal, our winner tonight. For JD, who had to go. Good night.